Good late morning, everybody. We are switching it up here. We are doing a video game review. I know I usually don't do the video game reviews early. I usually upload them later in the day, sometimes even at night. But I don't really have anything else going on right now in terms of the actual Seahawks and Huskies stuff. So I figured I'd go ahead and throw it on the fire now. So, we are talking Starfield today, everybody. We are talking about Starfield. And I understand that this game's a couple months old. I understand that this game already kind of passed through the cultural zeitgeist and has been left pretty much abandoned behind it. I know that people are not really thinking about this game anymore. It kind of just came and went. It didn't stick with people the way that some people were hoping it would, the way the hype indicated it could. But I only beat the game last night. I beat the game last night, and I didn't want to review it until I was done with it because I think that's just the right way to go about things. I can't really say that much about a game until I beat it, I feel like. And I wanted to make sure I had tried most aspects of this game out first. So I spent about 70 hours in Starfield, a little bit less maybe. I played it on and off. There were quite a few things that interrupted my playthrough. I stopped to play some Spider-Man. I stopped to play some horror games. I stopped to play this. I stopped to play that. It was a broken up playthrough. Baldur's Gate 3 broke it up. So it took me a while to get through. So I understand that everyone's already kind of formed their takes here. I understand that everybody who wants to play this game has probably already played it. But let's talk about Starfield a little bit from my perspective and how I felt about it because I wanted to do all the major releases that I played in 2023. So, Starfield, first, where I'm coming from, I really like the Bethesda formula. I do. I still do. And I haven't played all the Bethesda games, but I played most of the semi modern ones. I really did like Morrowind. I really liked Oblivion. I loved Skyrim. I played through all those games. I did prefer Fallout personally. I like Fallout more. More my kind of universe, more my type of setting. For me, it was just more memorable. Fallout 3 was great. I thought New Vegas was a Pantheon tier game. Fallout 4 was really good. It disappointed me compared to 3 and New Vegas, but it was still a really good game. So I was intrigued by Starfield. I was very aware of the inevitable problems that it would have. I was very aware of the fact that it was going to be messy at launch. And honestly, I can say this for all that I was expecting to come out of this game, this Starfield release, it really wasn't that bad at all. Like I recall how bad Oblivion and I think Skyrim was on launch on a console. I remember having to install a bunch of mods to get to Fallout 4 to work on my PC without crashing every 90 seconds. There have been problems with Bethesda games for sure. This one, pretty good. The glitches were minor and easily gotten around. They were more funny than they were crippling. So on that front, I can say, good job, Bethesda. You actually released a game in a good state. It shouldn't be that hard to do, but I guess it was for you guys, but you did it. So I wasn't super hyped on Starfield when it was announced, but I do think that this is a kind of setting that appeals to me. I like the science fiction. I like the kind of Mass Effect-ish world. It's like a Bethesda game set in the Mass Effect universe almost, just without aliens, just only humans. But it's the same basic idea. Humans are colonizing the rest of the universe, and they have technology far beyond what we have. And you can explore around the galaxy, explore around the universe, jump from planet to planet, go to different planets, some civilized, some uncivilized. You're doing quests. It's basically, and this is where I have to kind of make a interesting statement with regard to Starfield. I thought the game was great. I really liked this game. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. I don't know if the game was actually great. In fact, I suspect it wasn't, but it just didn't bother me in that way. And what I mean by that, talking about this game for its gameplay, which is obviously the most important thing. This game is Fallout in space. This game is Elder Scrolls in space. I'd say more like Fallout because Fallout is mostly guns. This is mostly guns. Skyrim has swords and bows and arrows and axes and da 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 da. So this is more like Fallout than anything else. But while the game is a lot bigger than any Fallout game, when you think about it, there are hundreds of planets you can go to in Starfield, and each planet is big, and each planet has different stuff to do on it. So Starfield is much bigger than any Fallout game. But other than just being bigger, is this really different than the Fallout formula? Does it add anything? Does it bring it into the new generation? This is where people are going to get held up on it, I think. The answer is no. It doesn't really update the Bethesda formula. The formula is not really different from Fallout 4 or I would even say New Vegas. Um, you collect items in basically the same way. You manage your inventory in the same way. You have beds that you sleep in the same way. You talk with characters in the same way. You have different dialogue options the same way. This game did not really take the Fallout formula and run with it and do something either brand new or revolutionary or something that's even a big step forward. It didn't. The steps forward would be they just made it bigger. And I will say, if there's anything that got added here, it's the ship driving functionality, where in order to get from planet to planet, you have to buy a ship or build a ship, build it to your exact specifications, and use the ship to jump from planet to planet, galaxy to galaxy. That's cool. I respect that. I think that was a good idea, a good addition. That is something that separates it somewhat. But in terms of the basic day to day of playing this game, I can't say it adds anything from previous Bethesda titles. However, and this is where I still thought this game was great, even though I don't think it's actually great, does that really bother me that much? It's not like there are a lot of Bethesda games or a lot of Bethesda clones, at least not very good ones, right? This is not a situation where you have a FromSoft game, right? Because you've got a bunch of FromSoft games. FromSoft releases a new game every couple years, and they all have the same general basic idea behind them. And then you also have all these FromSoft homages and ripoffs. It seems like every year we get a bunch of them. We get games like Lies of P, which are quite good. You get some games like Wolong Fallen Dynasty, which are, well, I liked it, but the general public was a little bit cold on that one. You get these games that are like Dark Souls, like Bloodborne, like Elden Ring so much. It's become such a common move for a video game studio or an indie studio or even a small time developer to make a Souls-like game. There are so many out there that if FromSoft in the next couple years were to release another Souls game that plays just like a Souls game with nothing new to add, that would be boring because there's Souls-like games every month, it feels like. You can't go more than a couple months without running into another Souls-like game. Some of them are bad, but some of them are good. Even like the Jedi Survivor and Jedi Fallen Order, that series, the Star Wars Jedi series, is basically adapting stuff from the Souls-like genre. So if you were to take a game like that and just make another one of those, that would probably be an issue because it would just be like, well, I played this game so much lately, I feel nothing. But for me personally, Starfield, yeah, it's not really adding anything new to the formula, but I like that formula, and that formula doesn't get used that often. The last time I feel like I really played a game like this, a Bethesda game, was Fallout 4, and I was disappointed by it. The last time I was really blown away by one would have been Skyrim and Back to New Vegas. So that's my just personal perspective here. Yes, it is completely fair to point out that this game came out 11 years after New Vegas did and didn't do enough to update the formula. New Vegas is two console generations ago from Starfield, and honestly, I think that New Vegas is better, but that wouldn't be a cardinal sin, but I just don't think Starfield added enough. It takes place in a different setting. It does some things differently, but it doesn't push the boundaries. It doesn't say, "Oh, they added this." Like there's a bargaining system, right, in the dialogue where you have to convince people of things, but honestly, it's not really good. In fact, I think it's mostly bad. Sometimes it's funny bad, but other times it's just awkward and random and weird. So, honestly, that is kind of not even really that good. So, yeah, if you're looking for a game that innovates and finds a new way to deliver the Bethesda formula, Starfield's not it. Now, the size and scope of the game is very impressive, don't get me wrong. Like, this is a beautiful universe that this game is set in. You can spend probably hundreds of hours jumping from planet to planet doing stuff and collecting items, but realistically, I don't think most people are going to want to do that because while there are hundreds of planets you can explore, most of them are just drop you off in the middle of the wilderness, go collect some plants and kill some monsters. There's really nothing there except maybe some ruins you can explore. Some planets are civilized, some planets are inhabited, some planets have cities and towns and villages you can explore, but just being honest here, a lot of them are more along the lines of, well, here's just like this open world you can explore around that has very little in it. So that's not going to do it for a lot of people. A lot of people are going to look at that and go fake length. Like it's artificially boosting the length and size of the game, but it's not really adding to the game. It's just making me waste more time run around on an empty planet. And I completely empathize with that. There's some truth to that. There are a lot of planets I never went to. Um, that's most of the rundown of the game. It plays a lot like Fallout. You go around shooting things. There's no VATS system, which I loved VATS because it was goofy. So I would kind of miss that, but obviously it wouldn't have fit as well in this game compared to Fallout. Um, Shipbuilding was pretty cool, if a little bit difficult to really figure out, really wrap your head around the mechanics of building a ship. But if you were willing to stick to it, it's pretty cool. Ship combat and ship maneuvering was fun. I like that too. Um, that's most of the gameplay stuff, really. I just like games like this. I like inventory management games. I like stuff where you hoard a bunch of items. I like games where you collect a bunch of um, valuables so you can sell and use the money that you make from selling it to buy other things that you actually need. This is a formula that I dig. If you don't dig the formula or you're tired of the formula, I don't think there's much here for you. I do think that the scope of the game is commendable, but again, that's not really new. That's just more. Like, if you took the Grand Theft Auto 5 map and you copied and pasted it 8 times to make it 9 times bigger, and then you release that game and said, here, there's Grand Theft Auto 6, I don't think anybody's going to be happy with that. They're just going to be like, this is the same game, but more. That's what Starfield feels like. That being said, there are a ton of quests, ton of stuff to do. I don't think people who are looking at this game for a really robust experience are going to be disappointed in terms of all the stuff you can do. And it's not all just fetch quests. There is a flavor to it that allows it to ascend over that. Um, what I would say is that at a certain point, I got to an area where I still had a ton of side quests left, but I had no interest in doing it anymore. I just wanted the game to be done, which is not a great sign, right? Like, I did every side quest I could find in New Vegas back in the day. I did every side quest I could find in Skyrim back in the day. And while I thought this game was great, maybe I'm just older, maybe that's just my perspective on games now. I wanted this game to be over after I got to like 65 hours, 60, 65. And that's plenty of time, but if this game was really great, I wouldn't have. Um, Beyond the gameplay, the game looks fine. It's not extraordinary. The game is so big, it's not going to look like Resident Evil 4. It's not going to look like Dead Space Remake. It's going to look good, and it does. Um, the story is, I mean, it's fine. I prefer the story of the Fallout games personally. It's without giving anything away, it's typical of these kinds of games, and I think people were hoping for something different. Ultimately, this does end up in the same vein as something like a Skyrim or an Oblivion in terms of general story structure, and I think people were ready to maybe experience something a little different. And the lack of control you have over generating certain outcomes. Like, I'll give you an example. There was a character in a side quest, or yeah, I think it was a side quest, who was not a very nice guy, so I decided to screw him over. And he found out about it. He was mad at me, so he went up to me in person and said, I am going to find you and kill you later. So I was like, okay, if you're going to find me and kill me later, I'm going to kill you now. So I pull out my gun and I start shooting him. He's invincible. Like, I can shoot him right in the head 1,000 times. He's never dying because the game needs him to survive that part so he can attack you later on. That's the kind of stuff that disappoints me. That's the kind of stuff where it's like, okay, I know you have a narrative you're trying to tell here, but you're basically breaking the laws of reality and common sense so you can have your narrative play out exactly the way you want to. A game like Baldur's Gate basically lets you do whatever you want at all times, and if there are consequences or narrative shaking decisions you make, then so be it. This game, there were many times where I felt like I couldn't really control things, like I was on rails. There's a heist side quest where you have to decide who you're going to share the booty, the bounty with, but you can't choose to just run off with it yourself, which I thought I was going to actually try to do just for fun, but then you get there and you're like, no, that's not a choice. It should be a choice. Why shouldn't it be? You should be able to kind of do whatever you want to do, and if there are consequences, then okay. Maybe I'll live with them, maybe I won't. But I didn't like being put on rails. I thought, like I said, the bargaining system, the persuasion system was. I understand they're trying to make it interactive, but it was really goofy and weird and just didn't work. Didn't cut it for me. The characters are, I mean, they try, but they're pretty forgettable. The only one I really remember is Sarah. They're Barrett, I guess. They don't really stick with you. They try. I don't think it's for lack of trying, but it's just not the kind of game where I really care about my companion and their personal problems when I'm trying to explore the universe. So there are some issues here. I don't think the story is bad, though. I don't think the characters are bad. I don't think any of these elements are a problem. They're just, again, kind of typical of the Bethesda formula, and I think people want to maybe get something beyond that. And if you do, I doubt you'll like Starfield very much. But if you're like me and you don't play games like this that often, and you don't get your fix of Bethesda's formula that often, I mean, think about it. The last great game from Bethesda, in my estimation, the last game that really satisfied me was Skyrim, and Skyrim's 10 years old now. So, yeah, I would give Starfield like a 8.9 out of 10, but I do totally get why this game has been forgotten. I do totally get why this game is now just like, oh, that game that came out for that everyone played for a month and then people moved on. I totally understand why that's the case. Um, I think that it not getting nominated for Game of the Year at the Game of the Year awards is fair. I don't think it should be, even though it was one of my favorite games of the year. It's right up there for me with Baldur's Gate and I would say Spider-Man 2, which I'm currently playing through right now. But I totally get why it doesn't deserve to actually win Game of the Year. It's just not bringing enough to the table. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Starfield. Great game for me. I recommend it if the Bethesda formula is something that you want to re experience. But if not, there are plenty of other games out there. All right, see you guys later.